Well, the Marshall 200 Major is a very rare amp. No existing amp is known to be left in its original state. Even Mick Ronson, who used to use this amp, didn't have an original one.
I knew it was Marshall's most powerful guitar amplifier. I like the fact that it was very simple, the controls. It only has three knobs.
This model easily broke down due to the extremely high voltages inside, over 750 volts. The amp is 200 watts and it's very loud, and it's said that Ronson's technicians took out two of the KT88 power tubes without him knowing, just to tame it a bit. So rebuilding this amp was partly a detective work, trying to find out how the amp sounded from the factory. I put up this thread on the Marshall Forum Vintage section about this restoration, and a guy in California, Dan Frank, he repeatedly asked about the amp.
For about a year or a year and a half, I had been looking online for schematics to the Marshall 200 Pig, and I found one through, I think it was the Marshall Forum. A gentleman who goes by the name Vintage Kiki. He had one that he wrote out.
There are no schematics of this amp at Marshall's. In fact, Marshall didn't even design this amp. It was designed by GEC, a company known to produce fine valves and tubes. And luckily, a guy in Belgrade, Serbia, had studied various pictures of this amp on the internet and come up with a schematic for it. And without this schematic made by Vintage Kiki, um, I would not have known where to start with this project, actually.
I think he did a wonderful job making that schematic. Basically, he made that schematic from looking at pictures of the guts of different Marshall 200 amplifiers. I think he did a wonderful job interpreting those pictures to an actual schematic. Uh, some of the voltages in that schematic I knew were off, and I was very interested to know um, what the actual voltages were.
As you can see in the picture, the amp has lost most of its inside and also all the transformers. There are also a lot of extra holes in the aluminum chassis from various transformers and parts it had over the years. I used something called liquid metal that are made for repairing cars, and I filled the holes and sanded it down, and I even put a slight airbrush over it to make it look good. The plexi panels also had extra holes in them, and I filled those. And for some reason, the Marshall 200 logo was missing from the front, and the Marshall Major logo from the back was put in its place. Transferring the Major logo back was no problem, but I didn't have the 200 part logo. So I recreated it from pictures from an original amp, and I used Photoshop and printed it on a piece of plexiglass in a copy machine, and then just put some gold paint on the back. Very low tech. All the components are more or less from the time period. Correct values and brands. 5 resistors and bullet caps and so on. In fact, here I got help with the boards and parts from Tina Palmer in Greece that sells new all-stock parts on eBay under the name Retrotronics. I got old pottery transformers from England from Oliver Foxon of Amstack, so it's definitely becoming an international restoration project now. The transformers are heavy, 12 kilos each, and the shipping company must have not been gentle in the shipping from England, as the output transformer was damaged. This was a major setback for the project. I looked for professional repairing, but no one seemed to want to take it on, so the whole thing was on hold for about a year. I almost gave up. So one Sunday morning I thought, what the heck? I pulled out the transformer and said, I'll fix it myself. I used a pair of scalpels, some super glue, and did some surgery, and I managed to take out the broken wire and put some solder on it, and voila, got a working transformer again. After that, I got my confidence back, and I told myself now I will have this amp up and running within a few weeks. Well, up to the point when I was going to power it up, I got some real nice set of original KT88 valves, but I was terrified about the voltage of this amp. 750 volts are not to be played with. That's more than twice the voltage of many other Marshalls. And I realized that the power transformer I had was slightly different from the one in the vintage Kiki schematics. Well, once again, my internet friendship with Dan Frank was essential. He had a lot of experience with transformers and amps, and he helped me come up with a solution for me. We also did some alteration to increase safety with new fuses and better bias performance. Well, it was a great feeling when I first heard there was coming sound from this amp again after so much time and so much work.
I was quite excited. The amplifier sounded very nice and very powerful.
Since I finished repairing the first Marshall made the 200, I've been fortunate enough to have another one that also been restored, and also working on my old PA version of this amp. And I found that there is really something very special in the sound of these amps. And I think it's due to the KT88s, the Partridge transformers, and the special 3 master volumes on these amps.